Square? Awesome. Welcome back. Sorry the chapter's so fragmented this week.
Square or be there?
Be square or be there. So we're talking about love and fear. We described, and let's just take a minute, I guess, here to review. The lower fear, this is by contemplating God and godliness. I recognize how big he is, how expansive he is, so I'm going to toe the line, I'm going to do the mitzvah. There's the lower love. I recognize that God's big and expansive. I meditate about him, and I realize that all the good things in the world come from him, so I'm going to do for him, so he'll do for me. These are the lower level of fear and love, respectively. They're selfishly motivated and oriented. I'm afraid of punishment, and I want pleasure. Therefore, I'm going to do for God. We talked about the higher level of fear. This comes from a lifetime of service and perfecting your fear and mitzvot, so that you keep doing God's work. And over time, it's not going to be so much about you. It'll be way more about him. I'm just in awe of who he is. I'm in a sense of wonderment about who he is. And then there's a higher love. The higher love is given as a gift, like a Kohen, right? Like a priest. It's not something you can become, like I was thinking about a joke, but I suppose we'll just move on. But you can't become a Kohen.
Funny joke.
All right, so we'll tell the joke. So the guy comes to the rabbi and he says, I want to be a Kohen, I want to be a priest. And the rabbi says, I'm sorry, either you're born a Kohen or you're not, And he's like, listen, I have this $1 million check I was going to donate to the synagogue, but if you say I can't be a Kohen. And the rabbi's like, no, I just remembered something. We'll make a mishaberach, right? We'll bring you up to the bima, we'll make a blessing, and, that'll be it. So they go ahead and do it. He makes the blessing, the mishaberach, and they says, so I'm really a Kohen now? He's like, yep, absolutely. And the rabbi says, I'm just wondering, though, why did you want to be a Kohen so badly? And he's like, well, I was thinking about it, and I thought, my father's a Kohen, and his father was a Kohen, so I should be a Kohen too. The rabbi's like, thank you very much for the check. So,
Here's your sign.
so you can't become a Kohen. You have to be made a Kohen, right? You can't acquire this great love by yourself. It has to be given to you. It's a kind of reward, right? So those are the lower fear and the lower love, the higher love and the higher fear. And now we're going to say, as we've been saying this entire time, the lower fear must precede everything. You need to recognize that God's king first before you can do any mitzvah, before you can acquire any higher levels. The entry level is recognize God as king. Kabbalat ol malchut shemayim, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. Now, in the very last part of chapter 43, the Alter Rebbe is going to bring down a concept that is a rare, unique circumstance. Sometimes, very rarely, the love can precede the fear. It happens rarely. It's an extreme circumstance. It's an exceptional circumstance. So let's talk about how it happens. This quality of love sometimes precedes fear, and according to the quality of da'at, which fathers it, as is known. So we know that chesed, love, and kavura, fear, they are rooted in da'at, knowledge. Have I said anything weird yet? So I have inspiration, an idea. That's chokhmah. I have the bina. It's developed. This idea is developed, and I understand it. And then da'at, I develop an emotion about it. I develop an opinion about it. Yes, no, good, bad, like, dislike, attracted to, repulsed by, whatever it is, right? That's the fundamental seed level, if you will, of love and fear. It exists in knowledge, right? If you know about it, then you can have an emotion about it. So in that sense, both love and fear are contained within and inside da'at, knowledge. Kosher? Okay. As such, they both come from the same source. You can have this energy coming with the love first because they both come from da'at. Does that make sense? Let's read on. For da'at incorporates both chasadim, the chesed energies, and gavurot, the gavura energies, the love energies, and the fear energies, respectively, which are love and fear, and sometimes the chasadim descend and manifest themselves first. It's unique, it's rare, but it happens.
What does he talk about there? The chasadim descend and manifest themselves first.
In relation to what we've been talking about. So there's the higher fear, there's the lower fear and the lower love, and we say the lower fear has to precede the lower love, right? Sometimes, rarely, the lower love can come first, and here's how he's about to say. It's rare. It doesn't usually happen like first you recognize God as king, and then you feel all attracted to him because of the relationship that you've built. That's normal. That's natural. Mm-hmm. Now he's saying sometimes it could start with pure love, and you just see God for who he is, and you're like, I can't believe what I've been doing. I just need to connect to God. And that's why we could see the lower fear is connected in the da'at. It's connected in the source, in the womb, so to speak, of this emotion, because it both comes from the same place, the same womb. So you're saying, I just love God, I can't believe what I'm doing. That I can't believe what I'm doing aspect, though very much nullified and dominated by the love, is still fear. It's still present. That's how it kind of works. Let's read on and we'll talk later. Therefore, it's possible for a wicked and sinful person, and let's just read the parentheses again here. For Da'at incorporates both Chesed and Gevura, which are love and fear, and sometimes the Chasadim descend and manifest themselves first. Again, this is rare. Therefore, it's possible for a wicked and sinful person to repent by virtue of a love that's born in his heart at the time he remembers the Lord is God. At any rate, fear too is included therein, in the love, as a matter of course, except it's in a stage of minuteness and concealment, namely the fear of sin, not rebelling against him, chas v'sholem, God forbid. While the love is revealed and it's present, it's not hidden, it's not concealed, it's not dormant at all. The love is what you feel, but there's fear inside there somewhere. There's fear concealed in there somewhere. Again, the basic fear of, I should not be rebelling against him. I can't believe what I'm doing. I love God. So I'm going to set this down and focus on the God, right? Let's see. While the love is revealed, it's passionate, it's big in his heart and in his mind. However, such a case is but an accidental and spontaneous occurrence or an emergency prescription through God's particular providence as the occasion requires. And this is what happened with Rabbi Eliezer ben Dordaya, which is a famous story in the Talmud. Are you familiar with the story of Rabbi Eliezer ben Dordaya? Okay, we'll go over it real quick then.
So the footnote actually sends you forward to chapter 48.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Wait a minute, that's not right.
19.
Oh wow. So it looks like here in the text that we have here, the footnotes are off a little bit. The footnote for Dordaya should be 20, because this comes from the Talmud Tractate of Avodah Zarah, page 17, side B. So I guess we're off kilter a little bit here, which explains why I got confused earlier. So go through those again. Perhaps there's an extra number repeated or just a typo or something like that. But anyways, here's the story about Rabbi Eliezer ben Dordaya. And I know we call him Rebbe here, but it's an honorary title. He was far from it. So Eliezer ben Dordaya was a hedonist, I guess the best way to say it. He prided himself in attaining and acquiring, you remember the story, and enjoying and experiencing every different pleasure that life had to offer, specifically sexual ones, right? He wanted to go and try and taste everything, and that's what he did. And he wrote about it, and it was like a big thing. So there's this one time where there's this one particular lady, and he had scheduled an appointment with her, let's say, on some island someplace, and she said some words to him that finally sunk in. She said, "You're just a wicked man. You're totally controlled by your evil animalistic urges, and you can't get out of that at all. There's not any hope for you. You're never going to be able to overcome this hedonism. So you might as well just give up." And something switched in him at that point when she said, "You're not going to make it. You're too controlled by your animalistic desires." And he went on this, and he was inspired with this ahava rabbah, with this great love that allowed God to speak to him in a very specific way. So the Talmud goes all throughout you could look at the story if you like. As Rabbi Gordon said, if you're 18 or older, it's one of those stories. But he goes on and he says, "Father and mother, help me," right? He knows that he's going to die, right? So, "Father and mother, help me," and there's no answer. And "Mountains and hills, help me," and there's no answer. "Sun and stars and heavens, help me." And there's commentary on this saying, like he was saying, "Well, you can't blame me for who I am. Look at my parents, look at my environment, look at my sign, look at all this stuff. This is who I am, this is what I am." And nothing would be sufficient, right? All of this rationale didn't account for anything. And at the last point, he recognized that it was himself, right? He had that AA moment where he's like, "My name's Jim, and my name's Mike, and I am an alcoholic," right? And he accepted it upon himself finally at the end, right? When that happened, he died. That's the story. He had this amazing, rapturous love of God that drove him to this intense, powerful teshuvah, this intense, powerful repentance, and it killed him on the spot. And a bat kol comes down from heaven, a voice comes down from heaven, and the voice says, "This one has merited the world to come, Olam Haba," which is a powerful story because he lived his entire life in hedonism. And in one little short amount of time were a couple of words from one harlot, right? It brought him to a place where he was so connected to God in a form of love, right? The fear was contained in the love, says the Alter Rebbe, because he's like, I love God so much, I can't believe I've been doing this. That I can't believe I've been doing this, that's the fear. But he was focusing on the love. He's like, there must be a way I can connect to God. Surely there's some rationale, so there's some excuse through which I'm allowed to present myself before the king. By the way, we're all allowed to present ourselves before the king, right? This is Judaism. But at the same point, he was very concerned about all of this. And it says that Rabbi, we were here a few days ago, we studied about Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the redactor of the Mishnah. He's the guy who compiled all the Mishnah. He said we got to write down the oral law, otherwise it's going to be lost. Rebbe heard about this story and he wept. And Rebbe said, some people work for years and years and years to acquire their portion in the world to come, and some earn it in 1 hour, right? There's some more about that story if you're interested. Some Kabbalistic secrets you can ask me later. But that's the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Dordai, and that's why they call him Rabbi, because he acquired this great love at the end to be able to overcome his sin and die in a sense of teshuvah. So powerful was this that it actually killed him. And again, this is rare. This is, as it says here, an emergency prescription, right? This is something that's not common. Typically, it starts with a lower fear. Okay, I recognize God's in charge. I'm going to change my evil ways, baby. And I'm going to start moving forward slowly, right? And then I'll acquire the love, the little love, and then the bigger love. And that's the way it's supposed to happen. But sometimes it happens this way. And the Alter Rebbe continues and concludes here by saying, however, the order of service, which is determined by and depends on man's choice, is to begin with the fulfillment of the Torah and the mitzvot through the lower fear, like we've been saying the whole time. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. Through this lower fear, yirat tata, in its state of minuteness, at least to shuv me'ra, turn away from evil, va'aseh tov, and to do good, so as to illuminate his divine soul with the light of the Torah and its mitzvot, whereupon the light of love will also then shine forth upon it. And the Alter Rebbe here ends in a note for the word v'ahavta. Where do we hear this word v'ahavta? Where does that come from?
Shema.
From the Shema, right? V'ahavta says, and you shall love, right? Alter Rebbe says, look at the numerical value of v'ahavta. Can we count it real quick? It's a vav, which is 6, an aleph, which is 1, a hey, which is 5, a beis, which is 2. That's 1, 6, 5, 2 is
And the tav is
7, 13.
400, right?
And the tav is 400. Is that 413? That can't be.
7.
Apparently
and
haven't done our
7
math today.
Is 414.
414? That sounds better. So you'll find that v'ahavta, and you shall love the Lord your God, has the same numerical value, twice the numerical value of the word or, light, which is aleph, vav, resh, which of course is 206. So I guess it's 414 it comes to, right? No, 412.
7 and 7 is 14, plus 400 is 414.
Okay, maybe it's using ima kolo. So either way, the message here is that v'ahavta is twice or. Or means light, that there are two lights. First, it starts with the lower fear, and then I shall love comes from this addition that comes after the lower fear has been acquired, right? How are you supposed to v'ahavta? It comes through the lower fear, the first light. And then you'll get the ahavat olam, the lower love that comes with that. That's the twice or.
Oh, your math was wrong, because 206 and 1 is 207.
414.
Not 206.
See, with the two of us, we'll make it through just fine. God help us. I used to be good at math. So v'ahavta is twice that of or, meaning that if you want to love God, it starts with a lower fear, and then you get the lower love. And as is known to the students of Kabbalah, and that's the end of chapter 43. So what do we learn in chapter 43? Pretty straightforward, right? Give us a instance.
The beginning of wisdom is
The fear of
the
God.
lower fear.
The lower fear. How is lower fear different from higher fear?
The lower fear comes from doing the mitzvah.
The lower fear allows us to do the mitzvah.
Causes one to do. Oh, right.
Then once we have that, we have wisdom. And it's the wisdom that inspires us then to the higher fear. Right?
Or if you just have the higher fear.
What if? That would be nice, right? Typically, it doesn't happen that way.
I'm afraid of big time.
So the lower fear is based on selfishness, right? The lower fear says, I'm afraid of the strap. I'm afraid that he's going to do something to mess my life up because I was going so perfectly before, right? And the higher fear is it doesn't really have to do with me at all. I'm just in awe of who he is. I'm in a sense of wonder about who he is. And the word fear at that point really isn't inappropriate anymore. And then we talked about the lower love and the higher love. We can get a word or two on those.
Well, the higher love is a gift,
Right?
and
It's a
the
kind of
eternal
reward.
love is generated by contemplation of God.
Just like lower fear, right? I think about him, and now I'm inspired to love him because he's big and he gives me all the good stuff, right? And that's the lower fear and the lower love, and the higher love and the higher fear. And that's chapter 43. Any thoughts or questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Some good terminology which will help us to kind of keep things organized moving forward here. We'll find that next week when we study chapter 44, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the gradations between fear and love, specifically love in itself. We're going to chop up a little bit more and look at that even more closely. And again, I would emphasize to everyone that this marathon of chapters here, these 9 chapters on fear and love, are exactly that. There's a lot of different information that's presented, a lot of different interesting stories and examples and codes and all kinds of stuff which can help us to acquire a real fear and love of God in our hearts. So again, as I've been saying before, take some time, look out the window, find a couple of these stories that resonate well with you, remember them, and when it comes time that you should meditate about God and try to develop a fear of God before you do a mitzvah, before you study Torah, whatever it is, that you can think about some of these stories, and they should help you to be able to acquire that lower fear or that lower love quicker, right? Bezrat Hashem, with God's help. Any concluding thoughts? Who would like to close us in prayer? Pretty good?
Oh, I loved it.
Baruch Hashem. Anybody would like to close us in prayer?
I thought that was a yeah.
I think that was more of a higher fear at that point.
That's not
All right, I can close us in prayer. Rabbono Shalom, Master of the Universe, you are awesome. Your Torah is awesome. Your wisdom is awesome. We are in awe of who you are, and we're thankful and grateful to you for everything that you've given us. We ask that you bless us in this congregation with your Chokhmah Bina V'Da'at, that we should be able to incorporate your truths, your words, that it should inspire us to a closer relationship with you and help us to do Tikkun Olam, to make straight in the desert a highway for you. And we thank you again for the wonderful opportunity that you've given to us and hopefully to our descendants forever. Toda Rabba. Please join us next week for chapter 44. You want to power us down over there? Thank you, sir.